I read somewhere that you said that storytelling is one of the most important tools in the leader's toolkit. Why is that?
Especially if you're a leader of what I call a heterogeneous group. If you're a leader of people who are mostly like you, things like theories and conceptual frameworks are important. But as soon as you're dealing with what I call a heterogeneous group, a group of motley people, which any person who's in charge of a large organization, let alone a country or an army, you need to be able to have everybody understand what you're saying. And my analysis suggests that stories are, so to speak, the universal lingua franca. Everybody from age of 3 or 4 on understands stories, likes stories. The problem is, even at that age, we already have hundreds of stories, and by the time we're adults, we've got thousands of stories. Most stories either we've already heard, or they're so bizarre we pay no attention to them. The leader's challenge is to be Darwinian, namely to create a story which can struggle with the stories that are extant and say this is a better story. I like to use Margaret Thatcher in that context. Not that I am a great Thatcher fan, but I think 20 years ago she was able to convince a large part of Britain and a large part of the world that Britain was moving in a new direction. As she said, Britain has lost its way, too much government, too powerful unions and so on, and she was going to remove some of these, as she saw, the hindrances, free up the marketplace, make Britain admired as it was in earlier times. And she was a very effective storyteller. People believed the story, in part because, as I say, she embodied the story. She didn't just talk the talk, she walked the talk. She was somebody who had come from very impoverished background, had gotten several degrees, worked her way up as the first woman in the party, and as was sometimes quipped, she was the only person with balls on the cabinet. But more seriously, the most effective leaders tell stories which actually change the way people think about themselves and the way other people think about them. So that's why linguistic and interpersonal and existential intelligence come together in skilled storytelling. And leaders who are not good at telling stories, or leaders who tell a good story but who don't embody it in their own lives, soon lose credibility.